Peace and blessings, family. Sister Ajali. I haven't talked about swirlers, the men or the women, in a long time. It's not because there haven't been atrocities committed against them, or the few of them who will just try to throw off the shackles of their pethood and harm the person who, for them, without that approval, that white approval, they literally feel like nothing. I haven't talked about them in a long time because there's far more important subjects to attend to. However, what originally just drew me into observing their behavior is because they're like the front line of the lunacy that's told about us, where they have to present non-black people as if they're perfect, and then present us as if we're just criminals and horrors. So this young lady, and I wrote down her name because otherwise I would probably not pronounce it correctly, Uma Kulsum Sani Buhari, who was a Nigerian, and her the shortened, loving, endearing name that her family called her was Umita, and she was Muslim, and she was dating, or she wasn't really dating, this entity, this Chinese man who was just so ugly and so old that you could understand why such a young, beautiful lady would not want anything to do with someone like him. However, you can't take in these people the same way that you would our own people. Now, when I say our own, I know that there's many different tribes in Africa. I'm just saying a generalized our own, because the way the world perceives us is just uniform. It's across the board, all over the globe, and thereby also understanding the physiology of non-black people is of great benefit in being able to predict their response. So this Chinese man, who's, I have to repeat it, incredibly ugly, would have been rejected all his life in China, where there's, due to the one-child policy, there are dozens, millions of unattached Chinese men who can't find a wife anywhere. And for this Chinese man, there's a pecking order. They know they have no love for blackness, and they treat Africans with absolute contempt. But even amongst other Asians, there's a pecking order of who's the best, who's the top, with Japanese at the very top, Koreans next, Chinese next, even though according for the Chinese, they're at the tippy top. And then all the browner Asians are way down at the bottom, and they accept that because they have severe colorism rampant in their own nations. And so when Asians go to Africa, they're going and thinking of Africans as pets, as a compliment, but I'm sure they would probably be nicer to their pets. I've seen pictures of restaurants run by Chinese people where they put signs out, no Japanese, no dogs, no Africans. And for some reason this is allowed, and they haven't learned the lesson from white people of being treated so badly. But they suffer from, and always have historically had, an arrogance about their ways, and they suffer from Stockholm Syndrome. Every Asian society out there has been, in their own perception, punctified by the brutality of Western occupation. And so when they go to Africa, and especially a dude like that, he's expecting any African woman to just be so delighted by him showing any interest in her whatsoever. And so for him to have made overtures to this young woman, and she rejected him initially from the stories that I've read, but he kept plying her with gifts. So I don't think it was something where she was trying to scam him at all. I think it was just sort of maybe her own politeness. Oh, okay. That's where, for me, the Muslim faith just demands that the men protect their kingdom, and especially their women, from the entreatment of other nations, so that all of these African societies would know, do not fall for the Chinese BS. And I know there are lots out there who know what time it is with the Chinese, but still they're, trying to make it seem as if they're the friends of Africans. Whenever they offer these loans, first off, you can't reveal what the little, rules of the loans are, but one of the obvious rules is that they're loans to build projects according to what the Chinese say is a good project, and then they hire Chinese firms to build these projects. So African people are working down at the bottom, and then anybody at the top is going to be Chinese. And these loans, like right now the Chinese are putting out there that, we've forgiven 23 loans for 17 African countries. They don't say, and interest-free loans, which means it's a gift. And it's not expected ever to be paid back in the first place. And so these loans could be, and it turns out they're really, really minuscule. Only 1% of the debt that Africa owes to China in the first place. These are considered gifts, which in Chinese thinking means you're going to do what we tell you to do, and you're not going to complain about it. So this whole idea, like China tries to say, well, we're not going to take over African lands. Go ask Sri Lanka if that's the case, because they like to make it seem like, oh no, these debts, we just want to see the best for Africans, while they're tearing up the natural environment of the motherland. All right? So I'm not examining this because I'm thinking, we're all one African community. No, we're all black, but we have different tribes. So I know the history that Africans sold us into slavery, and to the worst people on the planet, obviously, because I can understand and accept the fact that Africans didn't understand the devil, and they still don't, because the devil's been using Africans to take out other Africans. We Hebrew Israelites, we weren't the only tribe that they went after. They go after each other, but not like the Europeans. They don't have World War I's, 2, 3s, whatever. They always give us this narrative that we're just the most violent. We're the worst people on the planet, and that's so not true. So not true. When we have disagreements by our nature and by our history, it doesn't come to excessively violent extermination conclusions. Rwanda was orchestrated by the French and the United States government. All right? And so this, bickering back and forth, whenever you see that, the devil has a hand in it 100%. And that's what they're doing. They're instigating this friction between diasporic African us and Africans over there. Like I said, I have no delusions that they all love us or anything of the sort. No, but there are those who are putting up a good fight. One of so many shares that got removed with my channels was meant to warn Africans that Japan and China are shipping donated Fukushima rice directly to their nations, when the soils around Fukushima have been tested and they found despite the decontamination, it's the same level of radioactivity as there was before. I've been warning us about the FDA's latest removal of all alerts of Fukushima produce to the United States. All the things they removed, the warnings about the sea moss to us, which, funny as it is not, sea moss is being peddled almost exclusively to diasporic black us right here. Doesn't matter where it's grown. Okay? That radiation is gone everywhere. So all of these different factors wind up beguiling all of black us worldwide into an exhaustion, into a Stockholm syndrome complacency, and then into a forgetfulness. So that when I look at this young Muslim lady, Umita, well, let me say that right because I have respect for her and her family. When I look, I think to myself, she should have never, that Chinese man should have never had access to her. Kudos to Nigeria for saying no more non-Nigerian actors in any commercial role or production role on Nigerian TV. Can you get Sunoco out of your country too? Because Sunoco runs Nigeria, okay? We don't see any American troops on Nigerian soil, but that's because Sunoco just controls their entire military and their entire government. You can't do anything unless Sunoco says, okay, that's okay. So when they came up with that new, oh yeah, the actors, I looked, I said, that's not going to work. Okay? So I'm just saying, this is gigantic, and I'm going to talk about a couple of other swirling situations that are just lunacy. Hopefully I'll be able to do it today, and I did this because I just want to make it as compact as possible. Share my videos. Download them so you can have them because they will. This channel too. Woo! I'm thinking between the Chinese, the nuke industry, swirlers. I don't know how many people were like, oh my goodness, please don't let that stay up there because it is a historical document that those people are the devil, not us. Right? Mwah! I love you. Say it loud and be proud, because there's nothing like being black us. Peace and blessings.